Sorry. It is Wednesday, July 30th, and I call this meeting of the Pearsall ISD School Board to order. Let the record show that there is a quorum present. We have Madi Benavides, Marco Reyes, Diana Hughes, Dora Mata Rodriguez, Adrian Ramirez present, and currently we have Lionel Gonda absent. Present. Present. And let's move on to our invocation, item 2.
Let us pray. Lord, as we gather to go through this meeting this evening, we ask you to oversee what we do, how we do. We ask you to be with all these new teachers, administrators for this new school year, that we may have a very successful year, and that we may have a good, successful meeting this evening. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And moving on to item 4, public comment. Do we have any public comments? No public comments at this time. So then we'll move on to item 5, budget workshop.
Good evening, Mr. Board President. As part of our budget workshop, we have engaged with a consultant, Ms. Tish Grill, and she has prepared a slideshow, and I've got copies for you guys of the slideshow, going over the budget process, and then we will begin. Again, this is a workshop, so we will be able to discuss and have questions, and will not be taking any motions at this time.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Tish Grill. I am a retired school CFO after serving 35 years to public education. I absolutely love school finance. It's deeply embedded into my bloodstream, and so working numbers is what I do best. And I'm very honored to be here tonight to go over where the budget is at this time. The budget is not balanced. It's not ready to be proposed for adoption, so these are still working numbers. So as we go through, again, Dr. Spore had mentioned this is a workshop. Ask questions, pause if I have not made something clear and you have a little bit of misunderstanding, or if you want a little bit more detail, I don't mind going into more detail. So just please make sure that you can follow what I'm saying, because sometimes I talk a little bit fast. Just to make sure everybody relaxes. Keep your shoes on, get your water. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm married to a school superintendent, retired. I've been out ISD for 16 years as her superintendent, and last year he retired, so we've spent the last year getting to know each other again. We just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary, so he's the only thing I've had longer than my career as my husband. So I think he's going to see.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing. 2 grown children, and I have 5 grandsons, and my 6th one on the way. So life is busy for us. We've been very busy and very active. Go ahead. Here you go. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what you're going to see in the presentation. We're going to talk about the 89th legislative session and how that impacts the budget. come up with? Might have to pull the audience. What I came up with, the right hand has covered, the left hand seen. So if, in theory, in the budget process, you have $600,000 worth of funders, it's great. But out of that $600,000 worth of funders, where's the implementation plan?
Okay,
It gives me a chance to get drinks water.
how and when or how often are the snapshots taken? So that way, towards the end, the information is most accurate than snapshotting it to the very end. How often is this data collected, or
The most
Like-
important data is collected twice a year.
twice a year?
Fall, you have your fall snapshot. That takes a picture. This is what we're doing on this day, and this is the kids, this is the staff you have in your district. Then you have your summer submission. That tells your whole story. That tells you how many kids you've served. That tells you what special program those kids were in. That tells the state how many discipline issues you've had. It tells the state everything that's happened in your district. And believe it or not, there is so much data that goes in that submission that it is overwhelming. However, with enough training and enough repetitive oversight, you start getting a keen eye to saying, hey, that doesn't look right. And it starts at the campus level. And that's going to be something new. Your campus staff probably have never looked at a PIMS report. They could look at it and say, I don't even know how to read this. But you're going to have to bring somebody in to train them. And so, again, I'm married to an educator. I saw him as a principal, and I saw him say, I don't want to have to look at PIMS. That's not my job. That's a PIMS coordinator's job. It's not worth my time to do it, but it is. And it's very critical. And here's what is the most critical part of it. Inaccurate data is what hurts a district on your academic grading as well as your finance. It is both sides of the house. You're going to lose out on funding at the state and the federal level, but worse than that, your district ratings, your campus ratings are going to be impacted by inaccurate data, and it is so critical to get that accurate. My husband works in Savannah. Savannah is a very small district. I watched him spend countless hours working on curriculum, trying to get programs in place to help those kids that were identified on his state reports as kids in need. And the next year he came back and goes, there's no way we're getting this. I said, honey, your data's wrong. Just telling you, don't want to get in your business, because we had to spot on line. So I don't want to get in your business, but the Kansas data's wrong. I'm just telling you. He said, there's no way. We're a small district. We only have 500 kids. I said, I get it, but tell you what. I wrote down some numbers. I said, bring me these reports out of Kansas. Let me just put my eye on them. I don't know your kids, don't know your staff, don't know your district, but let me just put my eye on them. I sat down at my kitchen table, and I identified so many errors they were making. And he went back, and his district went from a D-rated district to a B the very next year. All because he corrected the data that was being submitted to the state. That's why I'm saying, your district is rocking it, but your data needs to be scrubbed. Okay? Do you have room for improvement? Absolutely. You're sitting beautiful. I mean, like, you're a gold mine. I'm just telling you. Your district is just amazing. But you need help in making sure your data integrity is where it needs to be, which you deserve, and your kids deserve that as well. Okay?
I do have a question on the, I'm looking at a TA on that same website you're talking about, and on the FTA count, I mean, I know you said it is what it is already, 24, 25, the rest of them prior to that. So we're looking at the grade levels, it breaks it down by grade levels and all the, professional staff and all that. And then it looks pretty accurate in most of them, but I do have a question, why, we do have one full-time athletic director, but it has it listed as .023. Is it because he's broken down between other departments, or what, what would cause that? We consider it 0.23.
So it is based on the data that is on that employee's staff responsibility record. So if Dr. Spoor was teaching a Spanish class at high school, she would not be a 1.0 superintendent. Her data would be a fraction or a percentage of a superintendent, but also have a teacher's responsibility record. So if your athletic director has other roles and responsibilities, maybe your AD teaches PE. PE is a teaching position, not an AD position. It just depends on how that role is reported to the state. So it probably needs to be reviewed. I can tell you, I showed some examples to Dr. Spoor this afternoon of how you cross-reference and on an employee's.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if he actually does or not, but I mean, I'm just so into it because the assistant principal's got 5, business manager 1, superintendent 1. You know, I'm pretty accurate, you know, on those positions. But that one said, you know,
It could be that perhaps he is the teacher of record for football. If he is the teacher of record for football, that's a teacher spot in addition to an athletic. But again, that just raises more questions for us to go in and look at before it's an official NTEA.
So this is what an employee's record's
But if
gonna
he's-
look like. This is telling me right here, this identifies that this person is a teacher, okay? So this is a full-time teacher. Then you look over here, and this is the population served. So this
Okay.
is telling me that this person is a bilingual teacher. This is telling me they're in a regular setting. They're not in a restricted setting. Their salary over here is not telling me they're a bilingual teacher. They're a regular teacher. So is this right or wrong? I don't know. I would have to send this back to the campus principal or the principal and say, hey, what is this teacher doing? Are they strictly teaching just a bilingual class? Because if they are, we've got their payroll code wrong. If they're not, you've got your pop served wrong. And why do you have your pop served wrong? You have something messed up in your schedule. It is so linked together that the spokes of this wheel is massive. But once you start looking at the data and knowing how to go back and track it, it becomes a very beautiful picture. And an accurate one as well.
right.
So just so you know, moving forward, it's not everything's like Tish was saying, oh, we have a PEMS coordinator, it's her job. It's not. It starts with when we get the employee in and we're setting them up in payroll, HR sets them up the way that we hired them, which they give to payroll, and then they get on a campus, and then the campus says, okay, well, I hired them as, you know, they've got this class of bilingual or this class if they're sped, and then they also have a general class. There's a whole bunch of those little things. So that one sheet will be coming back, and it will be a matter of HR, payroll, PEMS, and the campus will all be together going over each of those. And I can tell you, the first time I did that as a principal, I was a very veteran principal, and I had no clue that I was doing this. And it was like, oh my gosh, I had no kids labeled as GT. How is that? Well, it's because I messed up because in my master schedule I had one thing and it wasn't translating over to this other piece. So it's super complicated, and it's a matter of us now, we're going to pull those reports, and it's going to be a lot of learning on the part of the campus registrars, and the principals are going to be learning this, but we'll be able to check it, and we get warnings before the final submission. But like she said, that snapshot, which is that last Friday in October, when we come to that, we can't change it once it's in. And for example, we'll set our eco-disc rate, and that is what is compared in the accountability system, and we can't change that. We can't fix it. So just like you saw that it said we only had, 8 paras, we messed up somewhere, somebody wasn't coded right, and you can't say whose fault it was. Instead, we're like, oh, well, we know how to then put a checks and balance in to make sure that we're telling the right story. Because anybody looking at it would be going, oh my gosh, you guys cut a lot of positions this year. You must have had a RIF, or, what happened? Not the case at all. But that's the story that our data is telling us. And so these are important budget implications that we have to do. And as she starts talking about the students, you're going to see another big piece of it too. So
It's good explanation, because I mean, as you were saying it, I was just following along and then went into the website, and that really caught my eye there, so, I just didn't, I mean, I know I'm not the one doing the PEMS or anything like that, but it's something to look at and actually read it and try to figure it out, where we at. But I know that information is done with, so.
And there's no way to go back and point a finger. Your PEMS coordinator position is strictly, they are the gatekeeper. It's really not their responsibility to make sure that your data is 100% accurate. It's their responsibility to make sure that they can shove it up the technology line to the state level, and the state level says, okay, your data is okay, it passes all the fatal warnings. So PINS gets 3 types of warnings. They get a fatal, which means your file won't go. They get a warning that says, hey, something doesn't look right, would you just go back and look at this? And then they get a special warning. And what is typical, and it is not unique to this district, it is statewide, is everybody focuses on fails. Oh, my file's fatal free, I can go home tonight because my file's fatal free. That's not true. If you go in and you have a system in place to look at your warnings and your special warnings, that's where it's gonna say, hey, you know what, last year you reported 48, and this year you're reporting 8. That's a pretty big drop. You might want to double check your data. It may be right, it may be wrong, but it gives you this safety net to say, hey, you know what, this doesn't look right. Go back in and change it. It may come back and say, hey, you've got 2 superintendents coded. You can't have 2 CEOs of an organization. You only have 1. I go back and look at your role IDs and make sure you don't have somebody else coded as a superintendent. Those are what your warnings are going to tell you. But your PIMS coordinator, they do not have the knowledge to know what a campus staff is doing. Campus with their schedule that the principal has assigned. It's just impossible. There's no way that they would know that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good questions. Okay. Somebody watching the time. I'll be here until
7
midnight.
o'clock.
Y'all keep
15
on.
minutes.
Oh, okay. I'll run. Okay. So going into enrollment, oh wait, go back one. This is just a snapshot. It kind of tells me that your enrollment is not growing, but you're not dropping, but your attendance rate is very much the same. So what is going on with your attendance has to absolutely be reviewed, because this is where the bulk of your money is going to come from, is your attendance. The state likes to see around 95% across the school district. So I do think that, some areas to improve in that area. But it also goes back to your data integrity. Are you recording the attendance correctly? There are some exceptions like medical notes and things like that. Are you making sure that you're grabbing all of those? And then you also have low attendance waivers. If you fall 10 points below your average, you can file for a low attendance waiver. Maybe you have a flood come through or a snowstorm that's unique to your district, you closed. You can go in and ask TA. Remove that anomaly out of our calculation. They do that, it's pretty simple to do. Okay, moving on. So looking at your financial reports, the first 3 are from your audits, your financial audits. You can find those on TA's website. And the 4th block is what you approved as your budget adoption. The reason I wanted to kind of highlight this is to kind of to zone in on those net changes. You can see that you have pretty big swings coming in and out of fund balance. One year you'll have $6 million going out, the next year you have $6 million coming in. You budgeted a deficit budget last year of $1.2 million. So I want to say, so what is Pearsall's story? So I wanted to go in and kind of dig a little bit deeper. Why did you adopt a deficit budget? You can't operate on always adopting a deficit budget. So what does that really mean? So the next slide. This is your fund balance. So y'all have a very healthy fund balance. Kudos to you as a district. You have over $30 million in fund balance. But it would be a recommendation to consider designating some of your fund balance. What does that mean? That means through a needs assessment district-wide, you've identified what needs to happen in your learning, your instructional area of the district, and you would designate so many dollars for instruction. It doesn't mean you're going to spend it the next year. You're going to designate it. Same thing with your special programs. That's going to be your band, your athletics, maybe your CTE equipment, those areas. Your capital improvements, any major repairs, HVAC, parking lots. Your major repairs are going to be your roof. You should know when your roof is going to need to be replaced, all of those items. You would have those identified. And then what truly is your deficit budget? So out of $1.2 million, you really only adopted a deficit of $300,000 because the other were big ticket items that were one-time expenses, not an operating expense. What does that look like on paper? It would look like that if you identified under major repairs that district-wide, you need $10 million to do all these major repairs. You would designate $10 million for repairs. In the budget process, your person responsible for that, whether it's your maintenance or your assistant superintendent for operations or whoever in your district has that role, they would come through and say, you know what, this year, I think we can do the roof replacement on this campus and I need $1 million. It's designated, now you want to allocate $1 million out of that designation through your budget process. So you're not spending the full amount that you designated right away. It's just a placeholder. The board is the only one that can designate that, based on the recommendation from your superintendent. So that's just, when you do that, from an outsider looking in, it tells your story. It says, this is why we have our fund balance, and this is how we plan to improve our district. Okay, I gotta go faster. All right. Budget assumptions. I used the TASB Model 2 recommendation, which is kind of middle of the road. That does not mean that's what you're locked in. That's what the numbers I'll plug into the budget to be able to get some numbers to look at. Once you adopt a compensation plan, we'll go in there and make those changes. No student growth, and then your property values, we went ahead and reduced the property values based on having that additional homestead exemption that goes before the voters in November, because it more than likely is going to pass. Next slide. Your compensation plan, again, was House Bill 2's recommendation, and then 3% against midpoint. Once you adopt that compensation plan, these numbers will change. Next slide. So this is your proposed budget. As of right now, these numbers will go up and down depending on your compensation, and then just kind of fine-tuning the budget. District-wide, your salaries are proposed to go up right at $900,000. That is nothing more than the compensation plan and making sure that all your stipends and salaries are in there. Contracted services are proposed to go up $500,000. That is basically for those repairs. Your supplies and materials, $700,000. Again, there is $600,000 in next year's budget for the Chromebooks that didn't happen this year, so that placeholder is still there. And then just a little bit in other operating expense and debt service. So the next page kind of shows you what the true picture is. Right now, the 25-26 proposed budget is at a $4 million deficit, but that doesn't mean you're really at a $4 million deficit. So the next slide, and I'm going through this really fast. This is where that designation of fund balance would be. So out of that $4 million deficit, there's $2.8 million that's a one-time expense coming out of fund balance. So really the only deficit that we would focus on would be the 1.4, and that's that funding gap. We will try to reduce that to the minimum. Once we go in, I know there's some items that are in there that are double budgeted. I know where those are. I talked to Dr. Spore about those today. We have some areas to improve on. So that's just kind of a placeholder at this time, but that number will actually change. Questions? I know it's fast. And sorry, I just want to make sure that the board gets the picture of how the budget should be developed and how it wraps around the mission of those instructional leaders, those leaders to make sure your students are getting the best quality education, as well as your district goals, and how that really impacts how the budget is developed and the numbers that are in the budget for the proposal. And then truly, what is your story? Your story is you have a healthy fund balance and you have some one-time expenses, and you should spend that money on those one-time expenses, because that's why you saved your money. And then just closing that funding gap. You know, I mean, it'd be easy for a taxpayer in the community to come in and say, wow, if these were the numbers being proposed for adoption, wow, y'all adopted a $4 million deficit. What are you doing? Are you crazy? You could go back in and say, no, this much is coming out of designated fund balance. We're only a deficit of X. So that's kind of the story that you want to tell. Once you adopt that practice, then that actually transfers into your first section of your financial audit, which is called the management your IV.A management discussion and analysis, and then you would have a new section in there talking about fund balance designation and how you allocated those funds for that school year. Very quick, and I've got two minutes. So, so I know I kind of sped up at the end. Questions from the audience, from the board?
Can you explain just briefly on how much, like, we have a good fund balance currently right now.
Mhm.
If we don't use it, that could cause issues with some reports, and this is why we're using this designating fund balance for those purposes.
So typically the state wants to see 3 to 4 months of operating in your fund balance. So the recommendation would be look at what your operating budget will be, which does not include those one-time expenses. This is truly your operating budget. And you would take out four months of operating, kind of set that aside. That's undesignated. You don't want to touch that. That keeps you healthy financially. The rest of it, I would come in with a needs assessment, and I would identify where you need those funds and what you need them for to improve the educational process as well as your facilities. So it would be through a lot of work, a lot of direction from your superintendent to come in and say, this is what we need on the instructional side to be able to get our kids at the level of success of where we want them to be at. I know that was a kind of a broad answer.
Yeah, it goes
Not to
into,
kind of
yeah.
dig too deep down into the weeds.
Yeah, we have the strategic planning and all that coming up, so.
Right, we'll be doing strategic planning, we're getting a baseline on our facilities as well. So if we come in and we say, we know we're gonna have, we have replacement cycles for instruments, curtains on the stages, roofs, floors, all of these things that we need. And so we've got this amount in savings. So if we know we got a lot of needs, how are we gonna spend? Well, we're gonna designate this much for facilities improvements where we know we've got those, and we want to designate this much because we're going to have, replacement buses or replacement of technology. All of those things, we'll identify what they are, and here's how much we've got in savings. And once we've designated, that kind of helps us to say, it's not necessarily going to come out of our operating budget for the year, but here's our operating budget, and then we're going to dip into our savings to pay for this one-time expense, this big ticket item, repairing a track, that kind of thing. We know we've got the savings for it, so it's not going to come out of budget, it's going to come out of the fund balance that we designated for those repairs. Same thing when we know an air conditioner is going to go out. We know those things have a lifespan, so we can plan for them, and it doesn't become we need to go take out a short-term note for something. We don't need to. We have a nice savings account to be able to pay for these one-time expenses. So that's the goal behind that is knowing we have these needs, and we've got this resource. How are we going to fund for the long term on that, thinking beyond this year? So again, when you look and you say, oh my gosh, we adopted $1 million deficit budget, it's like, actually no, we dipped into fund balance for these things that we knew we had a fund balance for. We were short this much. So that's our goal between now and we come back at the end of August is what are the things we put in the budget that are the one time, for example, the technology piece. That is going to be a designation and not going to be coming out of our operating budget for that year. So that we're trying to get that down as close to, we really want to pass that balanced, and that we're only dipping into fund balance to pay for one-time things, not ongoing expenses, because we can't sustain that. Because we can always say we got to put off a one-time thing, but if it's a sustained piece, you know, we can't meet payroll without going into fund balance. We are not going to go there. So that's why it's going to be important for us to designate based on that needs assessment as we start talking about, you know, what do we need for all sides of the house, instruction, facilities, everything.
The other key component to that is when the district as a whole adopts the decision to invest into a new program. And I'm just going to use the Chromebooks because that's the easiest thing in next year's requisitions or request that I can target on. What is the lifespan of that $600,000 worth of Chromebooks? Is it 3 years? Because now you need to designate in 3 years you need another $600,000 or maybe be able to make the best decision for the district and to be good stewards of the tax dollars.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I talked really fast, I know my time's up. Any final questions? Oh, wait, next steps, ongoing. We're gonna be working on closing that funding gap, get it as tight as we possibly can, and then on August 27th, we'll be back with a budget and tax rate hearing, and then after the hearing, there will be a proposed budget on your agenda as well as a proposed tax rate. Now, any final questions for me? And I'm sorry I talked so fast.
I just have one question on what you asked earlier, but the state doesn't hold us, in a negative way if we have a fund balance.
The state does not penalize you.
The only time we have to send money back is if we make more money than they can go into that Robin Hood or whatever that is,
You don't,
or
it's
you gotta
called,
send that.
it's called excess revenue.
Yeah.
You do qualify for that this next year. Next board meeting, you're going to see some items on the agenda that need to be board approved because it's required by the state. Right now projected, you're gonna have to give up about $110,000 for excess revenue. Old term Robin Hood, recapture, all of that. That's not really based on your fund balance. That excess
That's correct.
revenue is not based on your fund balance. The only thing that could negatively impact the district is on your first rating, your financial integrity rating, which is why it's so important to designate your fund balance, because they look at undesignated fund balance. Okay.
I kind of find that, I don't quite understand that because we've had 100% ratings the last 5 years, 6 years. So I'm just getting into a gray area here on what you're trying to tell us.
So, because you have been spending some of your fund balance, you're flying under the radar, okay? Because you have over 100% of your general operating budget, your district will be looked at, because typically they want to see you at 3 or 4 months of operating. However, you're going to see in some districts, and I'm gonna pick on Northside. Northside has a very large fund balance compared to their operating. The reason they do is they're a fast growth district, and they are taxing to get money in to open new campuses down the road. So they have a purpose for having a big fund balance. So you have to have a reason to have the money on the books for having that big of a fund balance. It doesn't mean you have to spend it right away. It just means that, hey, we're not overtaxing our community. We have a purpose for it. And so you just want to go in and say, okay, we have 30 million. We want to leave 6 million over here for.
I'll be glad to listen to it.
But that's the whole purpose, is to make sure that it's designated, telling the state as well as your community that we have a reason for it, not just that we're wanting to put money in the bank. Because we're a non-profit organization, we're not supposed to be making money. We should only be generating the money needed for that year's operating, and putting that into educating your kids. That's the whole purpose. The money you're bringing in that year should be spent on the students that you're serving that year and running the district. Sorry, there's a gnat up here. I'm not waving at y'all, I'm just, I have a gnat up here. Any final questions?
Any questions? No, ma'am.
It's a good learning lesson. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Tish.
Good luck with y'all's rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
144.
If no other further discussion or any questions, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:20 p.m. You want to start, Pat? July 30th, 2025. I call this meeting, the special meeting of the Pearsall ISD School Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that there is a quorum present. We have all board members present, and we will move on to the invocation.
Heavenly Father, as we gather for this meeting, place its agenda into your hands. We ask for wisdom and understanding, guided by the principles shared in Proverbs. May we receive knowledge and insight, seeking the truth with the same diligence as one searches for it treasure. We recognize that our decisions, large and small, must reflect what is best for our students and staff, always mindful of the resources entrusted to us. With each agenda item, may we ensure that the well-being of our students, the needs of our staff, and the interests of our community and stakeholders are at the forefront of our decisions. In all that we do, may we move forward with integrity, fairness, and a clear focus on the balanced stewardship of both people and budget. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item 4, action item 4A, discuss and consider of the letter of support from Pearsall ISD to the City of Pearsall.
Mr. Board President, the City of Pearsall has applied for the Non-Urban Outdoor Recreation Grant Program, and the district is very pleased to write a letter in support of that. And we would welcome our partners here from the city to come talk to us about the upgrades that will be purchased through this grant program. Thank you.
Community's needs in terms of infrastructure or the quality of life needs. And one of the important roles that the school and other entities, including businesses and nonprofits, serve is the participation need and the support that we would like to request from you all. So just by way of a little bit of background on the Victor Trevino Sports Complex, the last time that we received a park grant from the Texas Parks and Wildlife was in 1993. So we have over 30 years at the Victor Trevino Sports Complex. And to my understanding, my knowledge, we really haven't put any improvements to it. And we'd like to see some amenities out there. So some of the expectations, of course, will be amenities that will include the playground and splash pad. And it's going to be designed for children with all abilities. So what we call this is the inclusive splash pad and the inclusive playground. We do not have that right now. If some of you are familiar with what amenities are out there, we definitely do not have anything that's inclusive, so we're hoping to get that. Another thing we want to do out there is what we call the nest boxes for birds around the trail, a new garden, and new interpretive signs. And we're saying, why do we need that? Well, one, this grant scores very high on conservation, and these are some of the things that they look for. And the nesting boxes there I don't know if, as part of the letter of support from the school, perhaps you would consider maybe your CTE. I know that the city has funded the CTE for projects. They did our picnic tables, and we're very thankful for that. We are enjoying those. Some of them are out there in the park. But perhaps building those, what we call bird houses, actually. And they would serve as nesting boxes for some of our native species, the different kinds of birds. And we would put interpretive signs that would describe those birds that are nesting in those boxes along the walking trail. So right now, you can see the existing conditions that are there. We have a splash pad that we have not opened in all summer because, quite frankly, it is very old and it's just not in shape for us to entertain outdoor use of it. We have playground equipment that exists of swings. That's about it. So we're asking to replace that. We are partnering also with the Texas A&M County Agricultural Extension Agent for the community gardens that will hold, we hope to have school children go out there and attend and learn how to grow community gardens, how to grow gardens, plants, and we'll have interpretive signs there. And all of this will be sponsored by our local ag extension agent, Ms. Brianna Gonzalez. And then we will serve lunch, we will give them a gift to take home. So those are just some of the activities that we will be sponsoring out there. And we will include, of course, the schools she will give them nature hike trails and what have you. So I think that helps towards the quality of life, but also for the children towards their education and learning. So we are proposing that as well. We're making much needed improvements to the main concession stand. We're going to do an addition to it, and we're also going to make improvements to the men and women's restrooms there. We do hold a lot of tournaments out there. The Little League, private tournaments. I mean, if you drive out there almost every weekend, it is packed. And we just haven't made those improvements in many years, so we're hoping to get some funding for that as well. And the other thing I want to mention is that we've been in discussions with Dr. Spoor and I forget the coach, the gentleman's Mr. Leon, regarding the soccer fields to be used by the school to host 6 of your home games. The city has agreed to, this hasn't been done, but the city has agreed to do the seeding of the soccer fields, the grading, and making some improvements so that the school is going to be able to use those soccer fields. Now, there is no concession stand or restroom, and I don't know if you can see it on here, I don't have a pointer, but if you will know where the main concession stand, it's quite a distance to walk all the way to that main concession stand from where the soccer fields are located. So we're proposing, there is a building there, existing building there, we're proposing to turn that into a concession stand, add a family restroom, and then add a concrete slab with a pergola with family picnic tables so they can sit there, you know, and while the games are going on or what have you. But it's a lot closer than having to walk all the way to that main concession stand. We would like to see maybe some partnership from the school with that, perhaps whether it's in a monetary donation or what we call in-kind contributions where, you know, material, labor, equipment. I can certainly leave that letter, and if perhaps y'all would consider, you can check off if that would be something y'all would consider. I can leave that with Dr. Spoor. But that is what we're proposing. Right now, we have up there in the pink, that's like 12 acres. And then to the right, you can see the parking lot in white, and then in like a light blue, that's your soccer field. And then you can see a little white building. That's where we would do the concession stand, which is pretty close to the soccer fields on that side allocation map. The one in the red, that's how far you have to walk just to get to a concession stand. Or into a restroom. So, I think ideally, that's why we're proposing that. It really, wasn't something we were gonna put in this grant application, but I think, it is very important for us to be able to provide those amenities, for the school to have as they're using those soccer fields. We have approximately 26 acres that, have been declared as, or used for parks. There's 20 acres down here in the darker purplish color that is undeveloped. We look forward to, in a future grant, to be able to turn those into additional sports fields. But for now, that is the focus. Let me see if I can go to the next slide. If not, this is just some pictures of what we currently have out there. As you can see, that is not inclusive at all. These amenities have been around probably 30 plus years. Next slide, please. And this is what we're proposing in our grant. These are inclusive. These will be used for children of all abilities. Next slide. And these are those pretty simple construction of these nesting boxes. But again, this is Texas Parks and Wildlife. They'd like to see some conservation amenities, so we're proposing to put those along the walking trail with some interpretive signs. It's going to describe what these birds are, what these native plants are that grow in our area. So as you're walking, you'll be able to stop and look at these interpretive signs. Next slide, please. And this is the gardens that we are also proposing, and they will have those interpretive signs. This is where we will have picnic areas around for the children to be able to hear the programs and do activities that will be sponsored by the Texas A&M Ag Extension agent. Next slide, please. And these are the types of interpretive signs that we propose to put along the trails and in the gardens. Next slide, please. Next slide. Is that it? Basically, that's it. We would certainly appreciate a letter of support, but if you would consider some kind of monetary or any kind of support for that bathroom, that we weren't in a concession stand, but we thought it was important. So, we have families of all ages that attend these things, and it's quite a distance to walk with them all the way to the main one. Do we have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, for example, the soccer games, these have entry fees. Who will get those fees, or are there gonna be fees? And will it be split between the school and city, or how does all that go?
We haven't entered an agreement with that, with Dr. Store and Mr. Ray as the city manager have been in discussions, but I would assume that those entry fees, should the school decide to have entry fees, would stay with, I'm gonna go out on a limb, would stay with the school. Currently, even if like the Little League things that are out there, or these other sports tournaments that are held by some of these other independent tournaments, what we call independent, if they have fees, entry fees, we do not take any of the entry fees. And I think in that 1993, when this grant was awarded, I think it said in there also that we provided the sports complex free of charge to the school. It's in there.
So we'll see all of that in the agreement.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Stoll, did you want to add anything else in the conversations you've had?
Bring up that piece later at another time, because it also involves, we'll need to rent some lights because of when soccer season is. So we're working with the city. This would just be the the most efficient and effective way for us to host a home UIL soccer game, which we were not able to do last year because we do not have fields that are regulation size. And so we felt it was really important for us to be able to offer home games to our kids. So we're excited to be able to do this, and it was going to be a pretty reasonable cost for us to work with the city to basically rent these fields and work on getting the lights and all that. So for now, this is just a letter of support for them getting this, and then we will be moving forward for joint use of some of these facilities. It just makes sense for us to use those for those athletic purposes, but we'll bring that at another time. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. All right, if there's no other questions or discussion, can I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the letter of support to the City of Pearsall's non-urban outdoor grant application to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department.
I have a motion by Lionel Gondara. Do I have a second? I'll second. I have a second by Dora Mata Rodriguez. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4B, discuss and consider approval of compensation plan for the 2025-2026 school year.
This evening, we have our Director of Human Resources, Ms. Michelle De Leon, who's going to present our compensation plan.
No, no.
Available surveys conducted, and we compared other districts that are comparable to our size. So Petula, Crystal City, Divine, Dehanas, Dilly, all those listed. This is where we got the data from.
You have it now. Just a note, this is just a snapshot quick rather than taking all the sheets. You've got the actual
Yes,
in
you
your
have the
board
full-
book. You have the full report with all of those graphs that you can follow.
Correct. So we partnered with TASB HR Services. We reviewed the market competitiveness across all job categories. They sent us model pay adjustment scenarios with different percentages, and we looked at updated placement, teacher placement guide, job, and group structures. So with that being said, I know Ms. Brill earlier showed you all a 3% increase. What we are proposing is a 5%. And so please keep that in mind. So our market comparison, if you look at that chart, our teachers are at or most strongest at 0 years. So if you look at the scale, orange is Pearsall, blue is the comparison of the districts around us. And so at the year 0 currently for 24-25, we do start at 52,720. Others start at 50,000. Our administrative and professionals are currently 1% below market on average, clerical and professionals 7% above market, and auxiliary staff 5% above market. Our admin professionals, like I just said, 1% below. If you look, the most competitive positions are our middle school principal, that is above midpoint at 12% above, and our high school principal at above 6%. We do have also some positions that are underpaid, under market value, like our elementary principal is under by 9%. So with this plan, we're proposing to bring them up to market value.
Another point of course here, when they say elementary, they're including both of our principals in that at TFE and the intermediate school.
Correct.
So TASB groups them by elementary, middle, high. We have to have 2 that would be in there. So that is the average of the 2.
Our clerical and paraprofessional comparison are currently 7% above the market, classroom aides are 12% above, and our pay grade minimums are 2% above compared to other districts, again, that I just mentioned. Our auxiliary are currently 5% above, custodians and child nutrition are slightly above if you look at the chart. Police officers are 32% above market, and this is because we had them salaried last year, so all of that data got submitted to TASB. So what we're recommending is to adopt midpoint-based pay structures to ensure that all staff are paid at or above the midpoint. And so adjusting their pay to help them bring them up to where they're supposed to be so we can help retain and recruit teachers at everybody across the board. And so we're also asking for to apply an additional 5 days of leave for 220 and 240 day staff, and that is because of the change of the calendars. Literally the day that we ended 24-25 is June 30th, and the next day 25-26 started July 1st, so there was no break in between. So we're proposing that. The teacher retention allotment, as Tish Brill mentioned earlier, the House bill. So if you look at this bill, this is
May I ask a question right quick?
Go ahead.
On the brief page, how come the assistant principal for high
High
school
school
is
is
on
not listed on there.
So the assistant principal is, they were at where they were supposed to be. So last year we didn't have technically an assistant principal at the high school level, we had an academic dean. And so that one's not on there.
Okay. Where were you at? You got one?
We have one, we have another applicant that just called me at 4:45 and she's putting a task.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. So with our House bill teacher retention allotment, we're proposing other districts around us, of course, are also doing the 4,000, which is the 3 to 4 years, and 5 or more years get an automatic 8,000. But we are proposing that teachers with 1 to 2 years experience also get a 5% increase for 2,960 increase. So our starting pay, instead of being 52,720, we would be starting them at 55,280. So that would also help recruit some people, especially because there's some districts around us that are 4 days, and now that we're 5 days, we need to try to bring in as much people as we can. So again, highlighting, we're trying to bring in 0 to 1 year, 0, 1 and 2 year teachers, $2,960 increase. All other staff that are not teachers would get a 5% general pay increase to also ensure that they are above, at least 1% above the new hire minimums. This would also help to align admin and professional pay with teacher daily rates because, of course, all of that is going up. Equity adjustments, and again, the 5 local and 5 state days for 220 and 240 day positions. The estimated cost that this would cost the district for this percentage increase is $1,267.78, or no, sorry, $78. The retention allotment, again, that's House bill funded. The amount is right there. Our general pay increase and our equity adjustments are also listed. So our next steps, in order to remain competitive with our regional market, with people around us, with the districts around us, we are proposing a 5% increase for all of the staff. Also, with that being said, the teachers that were frozen last year with DOI will no longer be frozen. They'll be raised to where they're supposed to be according to the years of experience. However, they do have 1 year to obtain their standard certification. Otherwise, we will not move forward with employment with them anymore for 26-27. And adopting this pay scale early helps us to ensure that we get payroll started for the beginning of the year and help recruit people. Any questions?
Okay, but that was a little fast.
No.
So I do want to say, I know that when Mr. Lionel Gondar mentioned that, you know, we couldn't see the assistant principal for high school, and you explained why. And so just going through the list, you know, I see principals, school counselors, assistant principal for elementary, and then if you go down, it says director of athletics, head football coach. So where does the director of band stand in all of this? Because, I mean, I see extracurriculars are there, and that's a big area that we have. So where does that?
On your pay grade, you have the breakdown of everything. So if you look at these pay scales, this page, so
So if you go to page 27, because what you're looking at the other one was just the snapshot of what TASB can pull for us for market comparisons. So when you get to page 27, this is Pearsall, and this has all of our different job titles who fall in that administrator pay.
So is that included here, or?
It-
Yes, so what I'm doing is just an overview, I'm not going line item by line item. So what you all have is the breakdown of every, position in our district and what their salary range is. It also shows you at the very end what the increase would be with the 5%, increase.
I'm sorry, I just can't.
Did you say he would? So, since you did, you said you went through the TASB, right? And, since we have that position, so how does that align with, the compensation? Are we within, or we would still be below?
So that's within, so all of this is updated.
Right, but where did it stand before? Do you know?
Where does it stand before and what exactly?
On that position, or was this a new position?
This is, an administrative position, so that's why it's on the administrative scale.
Right, okay, so where did it stand prior to, before you went to the scale?
At the top of my head, I don't have that, I can look it up for you.
I mean, I'm just curious, just because I saw the athletic director, and so I was just wondering, where did that other position stand?
I would feel more comfortable if we're going to talk about generalities, we can do that. If we're going to talk about specific people that are identifiable and their particular salary, because what you have here is a range, to give a particular individual's salary in an open meeting, I would feel much more comfortable if we want to
Right.
discuss that in a closed session, because, again, I want to protect our employees. What you have here are ranges. I'm the only employee you've got where you're going to say mine out like that, but everybody else, we've got a range right here.
Right.
And in
Well, I
discussion.
was just going based on, because of the positions that were listed, I was going based off of that. And I was just, again, I just want to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from, just because I was looking at the list of positions, and I was looking at, for instance, the elementary campus is 9% below. So I noticed that, and then the one above it is the director of athletics, head football coach.
Right.
And that was under. So that led me to think about, what about the others?
Yeah, so these are all updated with the, to be competitive. The districts across the board. So what was reported is from 24-25, this is what we're looking at for 25-26.
Did you say we're adding an additional 5 days a week? Is that what?
Yes,
So that would bring us a total of?
not for everybody, so 220-day employees and 240-day employees, so the ones that work all year long.
So in the past, we've been able to give people what we call non-duty days, but then you have the issue of, if I don't use them, do I lose them? Do they roll? And what we brought to the board this year was instead of having it be discretionary, if we're going to allow them to roll them, if we award them just as days of leave, then those are things that they can roll or use, and it does become their discretionary PTO, as opposed to calling it a non-duty day. They're the same, but for tracking purposes, it is much
easier to keep up with.
Absolutely, and then it's not, I'm asking you for a favor to roll my days. It is, these are my days. If I use them this summer, great, but perhaps the summer is not the best time. I need to save them up, then they're able to save those up.
Okay, so just a clarification. So the request of those 5 days would be for this school year? Because of the fact that we changed the calendar. So then here on after, then those 5 days would automatically already be included. Is that correct?
No, so this is part of the compensation plan again for 25-26. So for next year, we would have to look at that again, depending on what calendar gets adopted, we would have to
is this where I can say about the ESL department?
When we get to the stipend list, if there are any other questions about the pay plan or those,
I guess my thing is, there's some there's some of these, like the elementary principal and those that are like 9, 8, 6, 5%. Those that are a little bit bigger, we have a plan to make those to midpoint?
So what this is just TASB's basic thing, right? So what we do before as we're doing this process with TASB, we have to literally send them everybody's days that they work, the number of days that they work, the number of hours that they work, the number their salary that they work, right? And so we send all of that to them. So depending on what you all approve, so they already know who's under, right? So depending on what you all approve, I have to email them back and let them know this is what was board approved, and then they send us that sheet back with all the updates adjusted accordingly to where they need to be.
Okay. So if we approve like a 5%, then that would bring all of these
So
up.
if they have to go above 5% to get them up to market value, they would go above 5%. If they're
Okay.
already at the maximum, because they're at the end of
Yeah.
the pay scale, they would get a 1%, for example. So we're proposing a 5% across the board, but it just depends accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So again, if they're overpaid, they're gonna get a 1%. If they're underpaid, they're gonna be adjusted accordingly to bring them up to where they need to be.
Yeah, because it's not a 5% raise in general, it's a 5% off of midpoint.
Right.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Any other questions about this section? Okay. Want to go over the stipends?
so then at this point, if anybody had any questions about the stipends, I know there were a couple of points that you folks wanted to bring up, so we can look at the stipend page and answer any of those questions that you had.
Okay. Right.
It's the very first page.
9.
I have page 9.
Okay, so I had reached out to Dr. Ford, and Ford, I'm asking that we please consider increasing the ESL stipend, as the information that was received shows that stipend has been the same for like the past 10 years. Student enrollment as ESL has increased from then to now, and we have been fortunate to have a teacher who has stayed, or teachers, I'm not sure who all is the ESL. But just looking at that and looking at other extracurricular, things, and I'm asking that we consider an increase in the ESL stipend for this year. And,
What's your recommendation?
well, we have assistants, I don't know, I didn't.
I don't mind, but not know that yet. So with Delhi ISD, we're in line with them. Natalia ISD for ESL, they actually have $1,000 stipend. Tequila ISD has a $750 stipend, which is $150 more than we have. The mine do not have their stipends listed, and Vital only has only ESL. They don't have a bilingual program, so they give us $1,500.
So I'm asking like 50,000.
Well, to piggyback on that, because again, we saw at the very beginning, as we did like the budget workshop, that, we're all trying to improve our professional personnel to better serve our students. And so I am not only looking at the ESL because, being an ESL teacher myself, but also I'm looking at the math shortage, and not only for high school but for middle school. I think those are pretty well underpaid as well, because correct me if I'm wrong, the teachers that are entitled to these stipends are only teachers that are certified in those areas. Is that correct? Correct. So if I'm teaching 6th grade math and I'm not certified, even though I carry state accountability, I'm not getting that stipend. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if I am a certified math or science teacher at these grade levels, and I'm carrying state accountability, and I think they should pretty much also be in line somewhat of our extracurricular activities. Because after all, math, science, they carry state accountability. They are going to work for us. So if we want to keep those highly qualified teachers in those areas, I think that they should have a better incentive, and it needs to be more aligned with our extracurricular activities. So, no, I not only want to talk about ESL, but I do want to talk about math and science. Those are very critical areas that we have a very difficult time recruiting because of the fact that they carry state accountability more than likely. So that's something for us to
Okay, so
consider
what
as
are you
well.
proposing?
So, well, I'm looking at, extracurricular stipends, that they're important, they put in a lot of hours, but, those areas are seasonal as opposed to state accountability being all year long. So if I have to come up with a number, I would say, number one, middle school, high school, they should be equivalent because they are all as important. So I'm going to say 6,000. I'm going to say that junior high, high school, math, science need to be at 6,000. They need to be appealing. They are very critical, valuable core areas, so they need to be at about 6,000. I'm going to hit it right, not at 75 or not at 55, but I want to say 6,000. We can definitely negotiate that.
I agree with you on the part of they need to be equal. I mean, because if you're looking at what we just finished discussing about the teachers, whether it elementary campus all the way to high school campus, whatever years of service you have, you're going to be the same pay. So essentially, I think like Mrs. Mata Rodriguez saying, I think we need to increase it and be the same across. So just to let
I
you know
agree.
that.
I agree. And looking, I saw that the athletic department, high school, increased their stipends by $500 more
All of them.
on all high school.
So who did the actual stipend increase list this year? Because typically, I mean, in the years past, we've discussed it before, in the board budget, and now, I mean, we're actually voting on it tonight, and that's why we're having questions. That was going to be one of my questions, but I didn't get the opportunity to ask.
Right, if we had been given these questions ahead of time, I could have done the research to see
Sure.
what neighboring.
See, I mean,
Well-
and
Well, I mean, I guess I'll ask
Well,
the
it has been
question.
approved, so there's still
Right.
time
Yeah.
for adjustments.
So I'll
And
ask,
Go back and make adjustments to benefit our personnel. I think we should do that.
and I'll ask the question is, in the past with our previous superintendent, we would get the stipend list and no adjustments were made, we would look at it and we would discuss among ourselves what adjustments we were making. And it looks like the high school athletic department gave themselves $500 each more. And each high school, high school offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator,
Yeah.
yeah, all of high school.
Yeah.
So who did that? Who said that was okay?
So I will tell you what we do is we look at the comps on all this stuff. Now, you have an option here if you want to say, we want to improve the compensation plan, but pull the stipend list, because we
Yes.
want to look at the stipend list and we want to do that later. We can, and just keep in mind how this is going to go. And I would also keep in mind that we're staying competitive with others, and we're looking at what other districts are doing. And these are competitive with what other districts are doing. Not to say that athletics are more important than anything else. That's just a heck of a lot of responsibility after hours and taking care of kids on top of being a classroom teacher. And not to say that junior high and high school math aren't important, but you're also then, what about third, fourth, and fifth grade math teachers?
Right.
What about reading teachers? What about special education teachers? Because those count for accountability too. So if it's better for us to say, let's have a discussion on this, have even a workshop on this, we can do that. If you would like to move this out of the whole compensation plan as an item, if you're happy with the rest of it, or if you want to say, we want to table it and not vote tonight, but we're going to come back, and discuss it next week, we can discuss it next week. We have a board meeting on the 6th. We can certainly come back and do that then too. It's not you must vote tonight and not be happy with it. Absolutely, if we need some more discussion on this, we can certainly do that. If you want to do some some homework on this, and then look at what will the bottom line of that be to add to that amount that we're going to be looking at for adding. Because again, when Tish gave us those numbers, that was on a 3, which is the TASB Model 2, everybody's doing a 3, and we felt very importantly that we look at a 5 because we felt quite behind some of the other districts. Even, with giving the 8, the state doesn't fund that fully. You think they do. They don't fund that fully because that doesn't pay for any of the benefits that go through, the teacher retirement piece. All of the tax, everything, all of that was on top of the 8. So they get the 8 and we pay for all the other pieces that go with that. So it doesn't pay for itself. So if this is a priority, we're going to put our money where our priorities are, absolutely. So if we need some more time to research this and do that, we can pull it. If you want to continue to have the discussion now, that's why we have a discussion on this point as well.
Yes, ma'am. And the only other point I have, the question of being who actually, did those recommendations to increase on the athletic side, because to me, if I'm a junior high coach, there's no increases on any of them. It's like, was their athletic director part of it and not feel that they were entitled to an increase? Because they also work, coach them. Actually, they have more numbers student-wise, student-athlete-wise, and as coaches when they're participating in their sports. And, they work, in the mornings, early in the morning before school starts, and then after school as well. So I didn't see any increases on any of those positions. We added another assistant football coach, a stipend as well.
And same goes for our band.
Sure.
Our band director has been asking for an increase for his assistant directors for the past 2 years. And
I think that we need to just pull this part out for now.
Yeah, because the numbers get smaller when the student athletes go to the high school.
We also have
More
to
coaches
look at,
as well.
and again, I'm not being contradictory, I'm just speaking a little bit here, because I think if we pull this out and we talk about it, next week, in a further discussion, because you're already given an $8,000 raise, and you're looking at $1 million, it was like $1.1 million. So we have to look at that too, because you're probably gonna end up with what y'all are discussing right now, you're probably gonna add another $200,000 to $300,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's reoccurring cost. So we have to look at that. So maybe look at this, let's look at this, but then also look at it maybe next year, right? Because of the $8,000 you're already giving, plus you're giving 5%. Okay, so just food for thought. That's my recommendation, is to table this part, to pull this part out for now.
I'm sorry, we would have given you the.
Yeah, that would have been.
I still have another question.
We didn't know either, so.
So y'all didn't get this?
Well, in the board book, but, it was already done, so.
You had a question?
And I know
Oh.
that one of the things that came up was that, we're trying to stay competitive, but if you look at it just overall, but we're also trying to stay competitive instructionally. So it was just, I think that one of the things that alarmed me was that there was so many increases on the extracurricular side, but not necessarily on the instructional side. And yet, this is what we're striving for, is the instructional side. So that is my intake on the whole stipend. So
Right.
I'm going to recommend that, we do table
Right.
it.
We can table it, and I will say that the vast majority of when we're talking about taking care of teachers, we're talking not on the stipend side, but talking about doing that on the salary side. So, for example, we're moving instructional coaches over onto the administrative scale because they aren't going to qualify for that $8,000. They don't teach. We're looking at, we need to bump up our assistant principals because they're going to get the short stick of this. The other thing is, looking at the long game with teacher incentive allotment. There's going to be some monies coming into folks who are full-time classroom teachers, and that means some of these people aren't going to qualify for that, because this House bill, the latest House bill too, it gave us a definition of teacher, and you've got to have so many hours in a classroom as teacher of record. So that's going to change the game for a lot of people. So we wanted to put it not just in stipend, but take care of them on the salary side and then this side, because again, accountability is all of the teachers. So it kind of then makes it, you know, how do we justify not this accountability, but this one? So when we say here it was shortage, it was because it was hard to hire. Well, right now we can't hire sped teachers. So do we want to look at hiring that one up? So I would love to be able to give everybody a whole lot more on this. So we need to look at what is that balance that we can do and still be fiscally responsible? And then what is the long-term plan? Do we want to say we're going to do this % this year and we're going to go a little bit more next year? You know, what is our long-term plan to get up a little higher? Not only for the teachers, but perhaps for some of the support staff as well. So if you want, we can remove this out of the compensation plan, and we'll approve the compensation plan aside from the stipend list, and then we can, you give us some homework, you would like some comparisons with other things, we can pull out comparisons.
Can I ask a question? And
Absolutely.
in regards to the bottom right corner, on the CDL driving, I know we've lacked for the last couple of years, 3 years maybe, CDL drivers, and especially during extracurricular activities, going out of town, you know, be it band, athletics. Is there any proposition that we're doing for directors and so forth, coaches to get CDL? Because I know that last year or the year before, they started, and you weren't here, mind it, they started on getting the CDL, and if I understood right, the school district, what it goes through, and we still have individuals here that went through that process and still there, and we still, and then we're wearing out the same coaches. We're wearing out the same coaches,
And I'd just like for you to look into like these stipends that have been the same amount, but yet the one who has had it, how long have they had it? Like for example, the example I gave you. But, just look to see how long has the employee and have they, just kind of look at the years and if the stipend has changed or not. Please, you think that, right?
So I guess in my mind, this is presented to y'all every year, y'all haven't upped it in, right, because it hasn't been upped in the last 2 years for sure. So definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then, can I have a couple more things? So I noticed on the bottom left corner of the information that you provided, on the UIL, it says 750 limit 2.
It does say that, the updated one.
So that's what I'm saying, like, you must not have the right one.
You're looking at last year's.
Okay, hold on.
No, it says updated 714.
We specifically brought that,
Yeah, it says 714.
Okay,
Yes.
So it says UIL, $1,000, 3 or more. So a UIL academic coach, if they want to coach 3 or more events, the most compensation they will earn is $1,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if they have someone placed, then they get additional money after that.
But that,
That was brought up by the board, I believe last year.
Yes.
That was another thing.
oh, okay. But that's not the case for extracurricular. So,
This is academics.
right. Right. No, I understand that. I just want to make sure that that's true. Okay. And my last question is, what on the extra duty pay, the $25, is that also the same amount for like tutoring? So if you're a reading teacher and you stay after, you're getting paid $25 per hour for tutorials. So what is it normally like? Is it 25? Is it 40?
So the proposal is to be for the 25, 40. But
Okay.
what this last year, 24, 25, was everybody was different, so it was based on years. So if you look at last year, it says summer school students, for example, at the top of the page. So everybody.
Right, they want to streamline that. Okay.
Didn't that get changed though? Last time or not? That wasn't changed. That wasn't part of it? Okay.
where is our GT? It's not on here? Yes. No?
Yeah, that one.
Our lead diagnostician, that's new. We didn't have that last year.
What is that? What is that? And where's the plan?
There was another new one. Was it, for ag teacher?
Yes, and that's to be more in line with this amount.
But do they have to be certified to receive that?
Yes.
They have to be certified.
And did we do away with team supervisor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any more questions? You had a question, or was it answered?
I asked.
Okay. Well, just to let, like, the staff know in general, we had 3 options. I believe it was 5% and 5%. So I think it's kind of, at the moment, I think we're going with the 5%. So it just shows our commitment towards y'all and making sure that y'all are paid appropriately, making sure y'all get paid competitively compared to other school districts. So just when we vote, that's just what the board's showing their support for y'all. If there's no further questions, can we get a motion on this item minus the second?
I'll
Alright.
second.
Have a motion by Marco Reyes, second by Lionel Gondara. All in favor? Unanimous. Motion passes. And then we'll move on to item 4C, discussion and consider approval of the continuation, retention, recruitment, incentive pay for the 25-26 school year.
So we are recommending that our full-time employee receive a $750 one-time payment to be paid out in August, and our part-time student substitute be compensated $375 and recruitment in August. And this is to help our retention and recruitment for the 24-25 school year. We recognize that it's important for employees to continue their employment with us, to recognize your dedication and commitment, to support their morale and satisfaction, and reduce the turnover and improve continuity within the staff. So that is what we're proposing for our
So we'd be getting away from doing a 2-time, right? So we would do retention and then we would do one Christmas.
It's coming out of this current budget. If we want to do one at Christmas or at the end of the year or anything, that would be something that we would look at doing in the new year. What we were looking at was not changing something that folks had expected. And if we would like to keep it, we have some recommendations on how we do it in the budget so that it's set from the get-go.
So this would still be with the current budget?
Yes, ma'am. It was budgeted, but we have to come to you because it was planned for but not put in the budget that way. We have to come in and make an action on it this time.
Perfect. And this will be paid out when?
August 1st.
August 1st?
Yes.
August 1st paycheck?
Shh.
Okay.
It's a surprise. Y'all don't say anything.
Yeah.
Shh. Y'all can say nothing, okay?
And we are fortunate that we have a fund balance, a healthy fund balance to be able to do this.
Yeah. Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? And if not, can I get a motion?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the continuation of the retention and recruitment incentive pay program for the 2025-2026 school year with incentive payments of $750 for full-time employees and $375 for part-time employees to be distributed in August 2025.
I have a motion by Adrian Ramirez. Do I have a second? Diana Hughes, second. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 4D, consider the approval of budget amendment for the recruitment retention pay.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
On page 35 is the agenda item for the budget amendment, and on page 36 is the actual breakdown. Now, I would like to say and point out that it's not going to be as big as this, we'll move the money over, but some of the stipends are funded by grants, but at the time
Get
I
reimbursed
had
for it.
this to submit it for the agenda, I went ahead and overestimated. Remember, it does go back into fund balance this month.
Awesome.
Looking at it and showing money, and we're like,
It's a,
Awesome.
The last two incentives were lower at 500 and this was 750 like we did last year, and that's why it's different.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions? And if not, can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the budget amendment as presented.
Have a motion by Lionel Gondra. Can I get a second? Have a second by Mari Benavides. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 4E, discuss and consider the approval of the renewal contract with TASB Risk Management.
This item can be found on page 37, and again, it's the annual renewal of our TASB Risk Management Fund coverage, which is property, auto, liability, et cetera. And this information you see is listed in the following pages. I recommend that we,
pretty close to what we did last year, or just a little
it
increase?
is slightly higher, but not as great as you think so.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this? And if not, can I get a motion?
I move that the board of trustees approve the renewal of the TASB Risk Management Fund as presented.
Have a motion by Dora Mata Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
I'll
I have a second by Marco Reyes. All in favor? Unanimously passed. Moving on to item 4F, consider the approval of worker compensation 2025 client proposal.
This agenda item can be found on page 53, and again, it's the annual renewal of our workers' compensation client proposal for the 25-26 school year. The proposal includes a 1-year and 3-year option. The board in the past has gone with the 1-year option. This is what I'm recommending.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this? And if not, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the one-year proposal as presented.
Have a motion by Lionel Gonda. Do I have a second? Second by Adrian Ramirez. All in favor? Passes unanimously.
Sorry about that.
Moving on to item 4G, consider approval of the student athletic insurance renewal for the brokerage store.
Now, this item was not uploaded to your board packet, and that's supposed to be handout for us. This is the second year of the wait. We had a 2-year wait given to us last year. This is the second year, so the rates have not increased. Again, this is just the annual renewal for our student athletic insurance, which includes the base plan as well as the catastrophic.
And this is the same pretty much as last year?
Yes, same rate.
Everything. That's almost unheard of now. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? And if not, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the student athletic insurance renewal as presented.
Have a motion by Marco Reyes. Can I get a second? I saw Diana. Second by Diana Hughes. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Thank you.
And if there's no further business, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Lionel. Second. Second by Marty. All in favor?
Unless you want to stay.
Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned at 8:32 p.m.